What's going on, guys? Good morning. Welcome back to United View. Hope everyone is doing very well, having a good Thursday. It is Thursday, the 23rd of February, also known as game day. Yes, match day. Manchester United. I should start over here. Manchester United, Barcelona, Old Trafford, the Europa League playoff. It's only a playoff. Second leg. Yes, that's this evening. But before then, we've got so much to get into this morning. We've got Jude Bellingham to talk about. Yes, Jude Bellingham. The same Jude Bellingham that I was told by numerous Liverpool. He's going to Liverpool. He's going to Liverpool. Did you see him walking around with Trent at the World Cup? Now, in fairness, he still might go there. But certainly that whole thing being wrapped up, I'm not too sure about that. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about Victor Osimhen. I've seen a lot of people in the comments, and you know me, I'm a stickler for pronunciation. The amount of times I've called Ajax or dropped voice notes to Ajax, who I've seen in the chat already, good morning Ajax, saying about the pronunciations, asking it's Osimhen. Osimhen. I think that's the right way. I probably am still doing it wrong, but we'll get better. we'll get better at it. We've got an update on Victor Osimhen and a bit of a warning from the Napoli president, basically saying, look, I can block plenty of transfer when it comes to Victor Osimhen in the summer. So we're going to be talking on that. Alejandro Garnacho, a bit of an update when it comes to a new deal. I know, like the story about Alejandro Garnacho is close to or has signed or agreed in principle a new deal, but we've got some more details on the salary side of things when it comes to that. So we're going to be speaking a bit on that this morning. And of course, we are going to be having a little bit of a preview. The preview's already out on the channel. Flex was actually inside Old Trafford yesterday doing his preview for Manchester United versus Barcelona. So be sure to check that out. We've got some clips of him in the press conference, the Barcelona press conference, talking to none other than Xavi and Jules Koundé, asking him some questions about Casemiro, Rafael Varane, Marcus Rashford. So we've got a jam-packed show this morning. So be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe as well, bottom right-hand corner. Let's get your comments up on the screen as well. For instance, Ryan here says, Owen, I was thinking about Ten Hag and what an insane job he is doing, and tried thinking if any other manager in world football could have done what he has done under the conditions and Man United zoo. Well, Ryan, I tell you what, you're right. Back the manager, Eric Ten Hag. Yes. Scott Dog says, how did KG take his RKO vengeance? I don't know. Since and this is kind of the relationship that I have with Mr. the Comedian, also known as KG. Is that since the incident in question happened live for all of your viewing gratification here on United View during the press conference reaction stream yesterday, I haven't talked to him. Literally, I haven't talked to him since yesterday. So I can't tell you how he took it. I think he understood. I think he realized. I mean, he said it during the stream that he deserved it, you know, and a full sort of chronology, timeline of what led up to that point yesterday has been released on our socials. You can check it out at United View TV. We're on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, you name it. It's been everywhere. And you know me, I don't throw the first stone. I don't throw the first punch. I wait to be hit first. Some could say that's a bit weird, but I waited. KG wronged me and I wronged him back. So that's what it gets. That's what it gets. And we are going to WrestleMania. I don't know if I'm still going to get cut off. I'm cut off on both sides this morning, but I'll point to the sign. Yeah, there you go. So be sure to smash a like on the like button. As Nikhil says, one of our members, it's a big match day. Let's get the likes up. Not for me, for all of us. Let's grow this UV community and let's get this show going. Steffi Jenks is in the chat, says, morning all, one of our long-time supporters. Big up the moderators. Says, are we going to WrestleMania? Of course we're going to WrestleMania. Not physically, unfortunately, but, you know, metaphorically, or you can go there with me on my channel at Owen WrestleNews 365. That's a plug. I'm going to get into the story because I've already rambled on enough. Jude Bellingham, yes, 150 million euros. That is the price tag for the England international midfielder. That is the price tag for the Borussia Dortmund superstar, who is looking more and more likely to, of course, to be going this summer, to be exiting the club. Last season, well, the season before last, it was Sancho. Last season, it was Haaland. This year, it's Bellingham. Bellingham is going to be the name that's leaving Borussia Dortmund, and a lot of clubs, as one would expect, as we know, are interested. There was a story from David Ornstein this morning from The Athletic. We've logged on to Pornhub. It's early. I know that's not really a morning view joke, but I'm still going to go for it. We logged on to Pornhub, and he said that clubs lining up for Jude Bellingham are the likes of Liverpool, Manchester City, Manchester United, Real Madrid. They're looking likely to be the primary contenders if, and he did say if the 19-year-old exits Borussia Dortmund, of course, in the summer. The price is expected to be around 150 million euros. So what's that in pounds? Like 120-ish million pounds, which I guess wouldn't be a world record fee, but certainly would be a world record fee for an England player, certainly one would think. But currently there are many factors and there is little certainty as to where he will go. Now, obviously, we're just going to be focusing on the Manchester United side of things, but I guess you've got to talk about the competition when you talk about a potential transfer target. Of course, Bellingham is one of Europe's most coveted players, and his future is very likely to come to a head in the coming months, according to the Athletic's David Ornstein. Of course, not long ago, Manchester United were viewed as rank outsiders for Bellingham, but things are changing in the red half of Manchester, with Erik ten Hag's team in impressive form in the league, and the Glazers are trying to sell. These are all factors that could potentially sway the deal in the favour of United. Of course, if a sale happens in the coming weeks for Manchester United, don't rule out United being the team to have the money to do this deal. According to Ornstein, whether or not that is a move for Bellingham, that is a move that Bellingham wants, is what remains to be seen. So it's one of those weird stories where at the end of it, you don't really have any more information than you had going into it, apart from Jude Bellingham's most likely going to leave this summer. Manchester United are in the race amongst all of those other clubs, as we mentioned earlier, Liverpool, Man City, United, Real Madrid. I'm sure there will be others as well, depending on what happens this season. But I do want to steer it back, and you know me, I do love a good bit of Liverpool slander. And earlier on this season, I mean, even prior to the World Cup, but certainly just after it as well, we heard all of this thing. He's definitely going to Liverpool. He's going to Liverpool. Jude Bellingham is going to go to Liverpool. He's going to be the centre of this big rebuild at Anfield. He's going to be the centre of this new Klopp era. You know, the old era. The team's old now, but Bellingham's going to be in the centre of that. And at the time, I said that's very presumptuous for you to suggest that Jude Bellingham is a guarantee to be going to Liverpool, because my response at the time was, why? Why would he go to Liverpool? And they go, he's a big fan of Liverpool. And you go, okay, he's a fan. Right. I think in football, fandom will only take you so far as a player. Jack Grealish is a fan of Aston Villa. He ain't there anymore, all right? He's at Manchester City because he felt for the good of his career, he needed to go somewhere where he was going to win things. And win things he has. You know, again, fandom will only take you so far. Jude Bellingham's a Birmingham fan. You know, if this was about fandom, he'd still be playing in the Midlands. He ain't. He's in Germany right now, and he's going to be leaving Germany in the summer and going elsewhere. Now, Liverpool, again, they said, well, he supports Liverpool. And I said at the time, have you seen Liverpool play this season? They have been terrible. They've been awful this season. And frankly, there is a very, very, very serious discussion whether or not they're going to get anywhere near the top four. You know, when they're certainly not going to get in the Champions League by winning it, you know, unless some kind of miracle happens at the Bernabeu next week. And let's not tempt fate. You never know what can happen, but that looks very unlikely. They're 5-2 down after that first leg against Real Madrid at Anfield this week, just a few days ago. It feels like last week. My goodness me, time moves so quickly in the world of football. But so they're not going to qualify for that. In the league, I saw all the Liverpool fans telling me that, Liverpool are back now, don't worry. We just had a slow start, heck of a slow start to the season you had when you're just starting up in February. Nevertheless, they said, it was a slow start, but we've won our last 2 Premier League games, we're back. And it's even when you've got a Liverpool legend like Jamie Carragher telling you at the time, I wouldn't look too much into those 2 games that you won back-to-back. One was against Everton at home. Everton are a much more difficult side to beat. They're a different prospect under Sean Dyche, but it wasn't a good Everton performance at Anfield, and you're expected to beat Everton at Anfield. You beat them. Newcastle, you beat them. Granted, you were 2-0 up, but at the same time, they went down to 10 men, and they were still creating chances. Had they had 11 men on the pitch, that could have and probably would have been a completely different result. So I say to myself, are Liverpool in the contention to qualify for the Champions League at the end of the season? No. And Jude Bellingham, especially as he's one of the most coveted players in Europe, he is not going to go somewhere where Champions League football is a question. He wants to go places where he's going to win things. What are Liverpool going to win? So you could say that puts them absolutely down the pecking order. Manchester City, obviously, massive chance to win things there. What their overall future looks like, I don't know. In terms of the whole Premier League stuff, we're not going to get a resolution for that for a long time. They're going to be in the Champions League next season. I know they drew to Leipzig this last night. See what happens. I don't think they'll win the Champions League this season, to be honest. Next season, you never know. Erling Haaland's there. A friend is there. And he might want to go there. But I don't think, honestly, you can rule out Manchester United. Now, it then comes into, when you're talking about Jude Bellingham and Manchester United, that price tag, 150 million euros, which is what? 120 million quid. Now, it's so difficult and it's so challenging to have any idea of what Manchester United are going to do. Not even what we're going to do. What can we do come the summer? As of right now, if things were to remain exactly the same as they are now, heaven forbid the Glazers remain somehow, Elliott bail them out and they give them the money that they're looking for, we ain't spending 150 million euros on Jude Bellingham. That ain't happening. Even if I think it was Kave Solikol from Sky Sports said, I think it's Rob Dawson, excuse me. Always get your reporters accurate. It was Rob Dawson said that even if we have, say, Qatar take us over or Sir Jim Ratcliffe, Ineos take us over come the summer, it still might be challenging for us to go big, spend big in the summer, because from an FFP point of view, we have to have a bit of a lean year in terms of transfer spending. Now, again, I don't know how accurate that is. I don't know, again, if you can even really make that assumption before you get investors in. I'm not sure. But that price tag does seem a lot. But ultimately, as we always say, and this is the cop-out, always, not that kind of cop, as in Liverpool, this is the cop-out answer, is if Erik ten Hag wants Jude Bellingham, go get Jude Bellingham. Because this guy knows exactly what is right for Manchester United. This guy knows the players that can improve us. This guy knows what he wants. And he's got a true eye for talent. Near enough every single signing he's done, tick in the box. So if he says, Jude Bellingham, that's what we need, go get Jude Bellingham. I would rather, if it were me, and it's not, but if it were me, I would say, well, keep Sabitzer, because that one feels very possible, and for not a lot of money, honestly. What were the reports out there saying, like 20 million euros? Oh my goodness me. Yes, please. Now, we don't have an option on that loan, so we'd have to negotiate it, which is somewhat unfortunate, because then, given, a potential of how good a season or, second half of the season he could have with us, and he could achieve, let's face it, quite a lot with us this season, that might become more difficult, but I'd say keep Sabitzer. And I've said this before, and it makes me worried, and I already get flashbacks to last summer, and every single day covering this story, and you know where I'm going to go. He was there last night. There were clips of him walking out onto the OT pitch, looking around. Finally, Frankie came to Manchester. I really, honestly, truly believe that they will have another go. They'll have another try, and they'll touch base with Frankie de Jong this summer, and they'll see, hey, Frankie, how you feeling now? Look what's happened. You could have been here. You could have been a part of all of this. And probably, first half of the season, maybe you didn't want to be part of it, the chaos and all that kind of stuff, but you could have. You could have been a part of this project. You still can be part of this project. This time it's different, though. We're already starting to build. We had a good Premier League season. We hopefully won a couple of trophies. We're in the Champions League. We've got new owners. Those deferred payments, don't even worry about them. We'll give you 3 times as much. Don't even care about them. We don't even care if it's bailing Barcelona out. Come to Manchester. It's a little bit different. I can see it happening. I really, really can. Erik ten Hag wants Frankie. Did you see the way he was talking about him last week? He got brought up a couple of times. I mean, as far as I've seen this week, he wasn't brought up as much. Maybe it's because actually in the Camp Nou, he was really ineffective. I mean, he got absolutely just bossed off the ball by, of all people, Wout Weghorst. Wout Weghorst as a 10 last week was on Frankie de Jong all game, and it worked, and he'll be on him again tonight. I think Weghorst starts at the 10 once again, and I think he's on Frankie de Jong again, and here's hoping he neutralises Frankie de Jong again. It would just be, wouldn't it? It would be horror of all horrors if Frankie shows up tonight in Manchester, in Old Trafford, and we go, oh, Frankie, why would you do it to us? But I really do think we'll go in for him again. And I think circumstances have changed. And I think that's the reason why. If we were in a similar position to what we were last season, i.e., we didn't qualify for the Champions League. And I know this is being very presumptuous because a lot can still go wrong this season. There's still plenty of games to go. But let's say, hypothetically, we do qualify for the Champions League. We do win the Carabao Cup. We do win the Europa League. I don't know what we can do this season, but we have a successful season. If we weren't in that position at the end of the season, and it was exactly really the same circumstances, Europa League, still a little bit of what real progress are United making, then I'm not sure they would go into for Frankie, because they would be like, well, he didn't accept last time, why would he accept this time? What's changed? And the answer would be a lot. A lot has changed since last summer already, and we're not even near this summer, the coming summer yet, but a lot has changed already in terms of our performance, our reputation, really. I mean, your Manchester United's always got a massive reputation, but look back, last summer, there was a bit of a feeling, wasn't there? Oh, don't go to Man United. You go there, look at all those people that have gone there, and they've struggled. If Cristiano Ronaldo's struggling there, why would you want to go there? The place is toxic. It's not the place to go. Yeah, you can go there and you can get paid, but can you really advance your career? You're going to win things. They haven't won anything in 5 years. They haven't won a league title in 10. What are you going to do at Manchester United? Don't go there. If you're going to go to the Premier League, go to Manchester City or go to Liverpool. Or if you want to be in London, go to Chelsea or something like that. And things have changed significantly since then. United is now seen as an attractive prospect, especially with a takeover taking place, whoever the new owners may be. This isn't looking at one way or the other. Just there have got to be new owners. There's got to be money. And there's a project going on. And that might look attractive to Frankie de Jong, and maybe that will turn his head. At the same time, you could say, do you really even want someone that only suddenly, now you want to come? You didn't want me at my worst, you want me at my best. That feels right, that feels fair, So, I don't know. I mean, Magnus says here, Owen, stop being so damn blind. He's playing for Barcelona and on the brink of winning La Liga. No reason to come to United. Well, look, again, Magnus, it's all about opinion. But what I would say is if you talk to anyone over there in Spain, if you talk to any Spanish journalist, they will openly say that the financial issues that were there at Barcelona last year, they're a little bit better, but they're still not great. They will still be in the position that they were last summer, where it's basically pull some levers or sell some players. And it's a case of, they're talking about possibly selling Ansu Fati. That would have never been a thing a couple of years ago. And the reason why, and I think it was Semra Hunter in the catch-up that she had with Flex a couple of weeks ago, or last week, excuse me, was saying that it's not necessarily because they want to get rid of the players, but every summer it's like we've got to get rid of a big hitter or someone we feel we can make a lot of money off, because there are still bills and debts that need to be paid. And that was the case last summer with Frankie de Jong. Ultimately, they didn't want to let him go. They would have preferred to keep him, and they did. They kept him. That's what they wanted. That was the ideal scenario. The only reason they were even considering a sale of him is because his salary was so high and they knew they could fetch a high price. That's the situation. That'll be the situation again. No doubt about it. They'll look at situations, they'll look at players, and they'll see, can we get money for him? Can we pay whatever debts we need to pay by selling this player? And last season it came down to, ultimately, in the end, one, de Jong didn't want to leave, and two, in the end they didn't have to sell him. And they couldn't force him out anyway. So they had to find alternative solutions, because in his mind the other propositions weren't as attractive. My point is that a lot can change in a year. A lot's changed in 9 months, let alone an extra 3+. So, again, I think they'll touch base. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm saying that all the signs you see are that Eric will pick up the phone again. He'll ask, whoever even is above him. We don't know if John Murtough or Richard Arnold's going to be there in a few months' time. Depending on who takes over the club, they might want to establish a completely different board, a completely different hierarchical structure at Manchester United. And Eric might say to that person, hey, I know it was Murtough last time. Why don't you have a look? Why don't you pick up the phone? Let's see if you can do something. I don't know. My point being is, I think he'll try. And again, do I think that Frankie de Jong will come to United? I don't know. Probably not, honestly, because I'm not sure that his mind will be completely changed. But I'm not sure that's being blind. I think that you'd be blind not to assume that Erik ten Hag still isn't interested, because clearly he still is. Now, Bellingham again, my feeling always has been that he would go to Real Madrid, honestly. And that's quite scary. You know, when you think of the midfield that they've already got, Camavinga, Tchouaméni, Valverde, plus Bellingham. I mean, that's your midfield option sorted for the next, 15 years? Something like that. But what is interesting still, isn't it, is that it's still some of the old hitters that still keep them going over in the Champions League. Benzema was brilliant at Anfield. Luka Modric is still Luka Modric. His contract expires at the end of the season. Whether or not he'll stick around or he'll go somewhere else on a free transfer remains to be seen. I know that sometimes you get worried about taking old players. I'd take Luka Modric on a 1-year deal. You kidding me? I'd still take him. Did you see the way he just runs the game still? Absolutely not. Obviously, clearly, he's not a long-term option. He's in his late 30s. But still brilliant. But then they still got those young players. Vinicius is outrageous. And like I said, they've got some real strong players. And my feeling is that he would go to Real Madrid. I think they had all of that money set up and saved to get Kylian Mbappe, and obviously that deal didn't go through. So I do think they've got a pot of money that they're willing to spend, and I think that might be the sort of Galactico, that might be the Galactico signing that they go after. So I still don't think United are the favourites to get Bellingham, and honestly, again, I'm not sure that we're really in a position at this point where, because our budget might be 150 million euros for the summer. Again, depending on who's owning us, depending on FFP and all that kind of stuff. And there is a lot of scrutiny over spending in the Premier League right now. That might be our budget. And I don't think we're in a position at this point with our team that it's just, we're just one player. We just literally just drop Jude Bellingham into that team sorted. If you're going to drop one player in or one position in, it's a striker. We need a striker. And we're going to touch on striker in just a second in Victor Osimhen. But I don't think it's a case of, Bellingham in that team, boom, done, no problem. We need more. We need a striker, but we need a midfielder. You'd probably say maybe another defender. There's more. And don't even get me started when it comes to goalkeeping situation, because there was a back and forth on Twitter the other night when it came to goalkeepers, because, you know what, I'm going to get into it again. You know me, I'll go off on that tangent. You saw the goal that equalised for Real Madrid at Anfield with Alisson. And basically what it is, and both goalkeepers made mistakes in that game. Courtois made a horrible mistake with his touch for the second Liverpool goal. And ironically enough, for the second Real Madrid goal, it was a mistake by Alisson. Ball back to him, goes to pass it, comes off Vinicius Junior, goes in the goal, 2-2. And my point was, after seeing the Alisson goal, I said, that is my point on this whole distribution argument with goalkeepers, is that no goalkeeper, it's the biggest myth when it comes to David De Gea, that there are these other goalkeepers out there that are perfect when it comes to their passing. Because, and you say, well, we're not asking them to be perfect, but you are. People are, because I've seen David De Gea do a misplaced pass in a game. Not anything that leads to anything, by the way. Not anything that leads to a goal or anything like that. Just a misplaced pass, or he goes to put it out to the wing, it goes out for a throw-in. And you all see it on Twitter, the explosion. This is why David De Gea, he can't pass the ball out. His distribution's rubbish. This, that, boom, boom, boom. Get him out of the club. Get this person in. Get that person in. David De Gea's rubbish. And the point is that I always say is every keeper does that. Every goalkeeper, watch Ederson, watch Alisson, watch the best, watch David Raya, watch Sanchez at Brighton. They all do that. They all do that misplaced pass. They all make mistakes. Mistakes happen. And you've got to be careful what you wish for. David De Gea's distribution, I think, has improved immensely. Is he going to make mistakes from passing out from the back? Yes, because every goalkeeper does it. But at the same time, David De Gea can make saves that those other goalkeepers won't be able to make. The game against Leicester, on paper, that result looks very, very comfortable. 3-0, easy. Doesn't tell the story of the whole game, Because the story of the whole game is that we probably should have been 2-0 down in very, very early on in that game. And it was David De Gea that saved us. And particularly that second save where he scoops it from, it's behind him. He scoops it off the line. Very few goalkeepers can make that save. It was ironic that he equaled Peter Schmeichel's record for clean sheets, 180. It's ironic he equaled it that day because it was a very Schmeichel-esque save as a big outstretched paw and brings it back off the goal line. Very few keepers are able to make that kind of save in that kind of moment. But yes, people will focus on the fact that he misplaces a pass and say, well, that's not good enough. But every goalkeeper does it. And be careful what you wish for. You might get a goalkeeper that can play out better from the back and looks more comfortable, okay, but that goalkeeper might not be able to do what David De Gea does. That's the issue. That's always the problem with me. And I just think that had that been David De Gea, you'd have never stopped hearing about it. But when it's another goalkeeper, Ederson, Alisson, it happens. It happens. It's happened to Alisson multiple times this season. It happens to Ederson. They go, well, that's the risk you take when you play out from the back. You know, you got to be fair. You've got to, and I know then people will point to stats, and stats can be manipulated every single way because David De Gea will be low in certain stats and high in others. This complete goalkeeper out there, I'm not sure they exist. I'm not sure. And again, I put that out after the Alisson mistake, and the responses I got still from people that were saying, well, we're not saying you have to be 100%. We're saying you have to be, it has to be good distribution more often than not. That was the response I got. Well, David De Gea's is more often than not. Is he going to misplace passes? Sure. Is he going to try and put a ball out to the fullback? Is it going to go into the stands for a throw-in? Sure. Because it happens. It happens. And, I said be careful what you wish for when it comes to that, honestly. Because I think there's just this over fascination, and you'll get this new goalkeeper in. And look, if it is rare, and I still think we could get a goalkeeper in the summer, De Gea looking like he's going to renew for lesser terms, a new goalkeeper to fight out, brilliant. But that new goalkeeper will come in and he'll make mistakes because they happen, or he'll misplace passes because it happens. You know, I just think it's, to the point where any time David De Gea does something, these people, it's just too far. I mean, I saw against Leicester, I think it was, ball in the box, he comes out, punches it. David De Gea likes to punch it, and sometimes his punches aren't great, but sometimes against Leicester, there was a couple of good punches, and even then they go, oh, he's not catching it. But he still did what he needed to do. He still punched it out of the box. You know, I saw a clip. This is when you start getting really, really crazy stuff. I think it was Leeds at home, and I think it's the second goal, when it's an own goal from Varane. And it starts off, I think, with a punch out from De Gea. And the ball comes in, he punches it out, and then they sped it up because it's like a minute and a half or 2 minutes after that. And then they go, all comes from De Gea. I mean, if we're going to do that, why pass it out from the back, speed up 10 minutes, start it from De Gea. Everything starts from the goalkeeper. I mean, come on. It's just, I don't know. It's silly. And again, I'm not saying that, a goalkeeper with better distribution shouldn't be considered in the future. But right now, considering what he's doing, and now point back to mistakes. Well, what about that mistake against Everton? Because they happen. Mistakes do happen with a goalkeeper. Trust me. I've made them. Everyone makes them. So, I don't know. Anyway, tangent, rant over. I'll steer back. Amanor with the super chat says, we need to sell players, e.g. Martial, Jones, Maguire. They're looking like all names that certainly they look like they're going to be going in the summer. Be sure to smash a like on the like button as well. We've got nearly 1,000 people watching. How many likes are we on at the moment? We are at 173. So if you haven't already, click that like button. Let's see if we can get to 250, 300, something like that. Lil Yo says the David De Genda. What else are people saying? Fidit says, get a new goalkeeper that can't handle the shirt. Then we will speak of David De Gea's name with respect. Ashlyn says, De Gea saved our team in so many games over the years. The hate is mind-boggling. But I want to try and find a comment. A lot of people are agreeing. I'm trying to... Don't just think I'm just getting the comments that support what I'm saying on the screen. But a lot of people are just saying that they agree. But... again, it won't. It's beyond trying to change people's opinions on that disagree, because people will just disagree. that's it. The people will disagree regardless. So there you go. Victor Osimhen. Yes, I've got to speed through some of these stories now because I'm already over time. Yes, Victor Osimhen. That's what we're talking about. Osimhen. Come on, Owen, you're better than that. Osimhen. There's been a warning from the Napoli president. Warning. Aurelio De Laurentiis has all but confirmed that the top of the table of Serie A, Napoli, will require a huge transfer fee to even consider the idea of selling star striker Victor Osimhen. The Nigerian international is on United's radar ahead of the summer transfer window as the club prepares to target the addition of a new goal-getter-in-chief. He has scored 20 goals for Napoli this season and is considered as one of the most exciting strikers in Europe. De Laurentiis told TNT Sports, quote, "I am very good at making contracts, so when they come to me, they are blocked. So keeping them here won't be difficult. However, never say never. Sometimes there are offers you can't refuse, so you never know. To me, we'll see them shine for a long time." Basically, he said, it's going to take a lot. And it will take a lot. Of course, it's going to take a lot of money to get Victor Osimhen away from Napoli. He's one of, if not the most informed striker in Europe right now. I think, isn't there the stat, like post-World Cup? I think in terms of goals, it's Osimhen and then it's Rashford. Just believe. I mean, these are, imagine having them both from the side. Oh my goodness me. And in terms of those striking options, I think that it's clearly between him and Kane that United are circling, interested in. And it does feel like, doesn't it, the Harry Kane thing's dropped off quite a bit in the last couple of weeks. And maybe that he's broken Jimmy Greaves' all-time goal-scoring record at Spurs, that maybe he's considering staying. I mean, before it was his future's tied to Antonio Conte's future. I'm not even necessarily sure that's the case. I wouldn't be shocked to see Pochettino go back there in the summer. So maybe it might be a thing of Poch is back. We're happy. Kane, I'm going to see out my career at Spurs. I'm not going to win anything, but I'm happy to, see. I mean, he got a trophy, finally, one of his own, when he got that trophy the other day. But it does feel like that's kind of died off, and it does feel like, doesn't it, that Osimhen would be the one that United are interested in. We spoke earlier on about Jude Bellingham being 150 million euros. It's going to be around 100 million quid that they're looking for Victor Osimhen. I really, honestly believe, I said this to some of my friends the other day, I do have them, and that we talk about who's the favourite for the Champions League. Let me know in the chat who you think would be the favourite for the Champions League. Obviously, people will still say Man City, Real Madrid, those kind of names will come up. Are Napoli dark horses? That's what I'll ask, because they're doing so well in Serie A. And I know Serie A is a bit of a weird league, that the quality maybe isn't there, and especially when it gets into European football. But given how well they're playing, are they dark horses this season? Could you rule out Napoli going far? Yeah, again, I would say that people like Real Madrid and City are favourites, but dependent on the draw, see what happens. I would say, you never know. You never know them. But as far as next season, I do think Osimhen will go. It's going to cost a lot. And I spoke earlier on, this is why I'm not sure that Jude Bellingham would be the right move for Manchester United, is because that if we are just going to, if we're in a situation where we're like, well, we've got enough for one big signing, then it's got to be a striker, whoever that is, whether it's Osimhen, Kane. I'm not even really on the Gonzalo Ramos hype train that much. Yes, it's Benfica and they just churn out good players most of the time. And he had that moment in the World Cup where he scored a hat-trick and he took Ronaldo out the side and everyone went, oh my goodness, Gonzalo Ramos. But we're talking about consistent form this season in Victor Osimhen. And that does feel like the signing. But all of that, if we're going to spend all of that money, it would have to be on a striker. That's what we need. I mean, we're talking about how well Erik ten Hag has done this season and what we've achieved. Let's face it, we've come this far really without a striker. I mean, Anthony Martial was back in individual training yesterday, and I think certainly the sentiment has changed towards him quite a lot. I mean, obviously, people don't want to see him get injured. People don't want to see him struggle with his fitness the way that he's struggling. But at the same time, it's almost eye-rolling, isn't it, when he plays 45 minutes. I mean, not even that. He got injured. When did he last play? When was that? Was that FA Cup? Was that Reading? Was that his last appearance? I forget now at this point. He played 20 minutes in that, and now he's been out for 2 weeks. we're nearly at the end of February. He hasn't played 90 minutes this season. And there was a gap. There was a gap of mid-season friendlies, and he still hasn't. And it's different injuries every time. You cannot rely on that. You can't. So the fact that we've made it this far this season, that we're in a Carabao Cup final, we're looking up in the Premier League as opposed to looking down. We're hoping we can get through in the Europa League this evening against a real quality, strong opposition without a striker. It's a credit to Erik ten Hag, and it's also a credit to Marcus Rashford, a guy that's stepped up when it comes to goals and stepped up when it comes to being a striker as well, because even without Weghorst coming in January, that was kind of as, okay, we've got a striker, but even his position's now changed. It's, okay, actually, he's a 10. And for me, I'd say for the remainder of the season, obviously you can rotate it in the game, which we saw at the weekend against Leicester. Second half, Weghorst was up front, Rashford was out on the left. But I think that Marcus Rashford, I'd say play him as the striker for the remainder of the season. Rotate between him and Weghorst during games and in lineups. But that's the guy that's scoring goals. But again, the fact we've managed it this far by doing that, by having to shift players around, move players around, is a credit to the team and a credit to Erik ten Hag and a credit to Rashford for picking up the slack when it comes to goals. We're so desperate that we need a striker. There's no doubt about it. And again, I think that does feel like the one. Are we going to be the only team interested? No. I wouldn't be shocked, honestly, as well, if Chelsea put in a bid. One, because that's what they do. What they will do, actually, clip this, because this actually really could happen. United could do a lot of the legwork in getting Victor Osimhen this summer, right? A lot of the work, weeks negotiating, and then Chelsea will put in a bid for like 10 more million or something like that and go, Come to London. You want to come to Manchester? Come to London. Why not? Yeah, London is great. You can come here. And they've given him a 25-year contract. Spread it over 25 years. Do something like that. The problem that they have is that they ain't going to be in the Champions League next season at all. It's remarkable that they have spent like 700 million quid and they're 10th comfortably. I talk about us looking up as opposed to looking down. They're looking down. They're mid-table and looking down as opposed to looking up. After spending 700 million, you can talk about injuries and you can talk about bedding in and you can talk about amortization, but oh my goodness me. I mean, I saw that their stats are basically identical from Brighton last season. Graham Potter has turned Chelsea into Brighton. So they might try again in the summer and try and spend big, but that whole project, and I spoke earlier on about projects and how they look and the perception of them, that project, that isn't attractive anymore. That whole, they're spending money, they're mid-table. You know, who's their manager going to be? Because I don't think it's going to be Graham Potter as well, you know. And as I've said also before, if that was Manchester United, could you imagine? Could you imagine the scrutiny, the media interest? I could turn on the TV now. It would be wall-to-wall coverage of Manchester United. They're terrible. They're a disgrace. You'd have Gary Neville, Jamie Carragher, Graham Souness, Micah Richards. They'd all be at Carrington. It wouldn't be just a 2-on-1 interview. It'd be a 4-on-1, 5-on-1 interview going, Eric, what's going on here? You're going to get it right. You'd have, Graham Souness going, well, he's just a steady Eddie manager. He's a steady Eddie manager. What's going on here? Casemiro brought an old person. You'd have Simon What's-His-Face on TalkSport going, that suit really was too big for him. It's nearly engulfed him. It's nearly swallowed him. You'd have the person from the Times going, he's got no personality, this Eric. They're all being very quiet now. They're not apologising, but they're being very quiet. And they're also being quite quiet about Chelsea. Only now are they starting to go, I tell you what, that Graham Potter, he might be a little bit out of his depth. A little bit. They've won one match in 2023. They scored one goal in February. They had to give goal of them up to João Felix because it was the only goal. That's what they had to do. But they're going, it's going to take time. A bit like their transfer fees. It's spread over 7 years. By the 7th year, it'll get better. Come on. It's just crazy. Honestly, I've lost complete track of where I was going with that. I'm fired up today. I'm fired up today. It's match day. Come on. So yes, Osimhen, I think that is definitely someone we're going to be interested in, but I don't think we'll be the only people in for him. I do think we have to be quite weary of that this summer, certainly. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. We've got nearly 1,200 people watching now. Still less than 250 likes. We can get to 300. We can get to 350. We can go higher. I know we can, certainly. And be sure to subscribe as well, bottom right hand corner. I did miss a super chat here. Let me try and find it. Here we go. From Nathan, one of our members as well, worried that as good as Victor is, his team play with traditional wide men. We would probably end up starving him of service with Rash and Anthony as inside forwards coming in and shooting all the time. Well, it's an interesting point you make there, Nathan, actually, and I appreciate the contribution as always. It is about who's right for the team. And again, it's the cop-out answer. But if Erik ten Hag thinks it's going to work, if Erik ten Hag believes in this player for his system, then we go get him. And it might be, you're right, it might be a case of Erik ten Hag saying, actually, you know what? We don't really need that sort of all-star, amazing 30, 35 plus goal a season striker. What we need is a striker that's one, available all the time, but also his real key facets are pressing and link-up play. He played with Haller at Ajax. We even saw with Weghorst when he came in, he likes the link-up play. He likes the pressing. He likes the link-up play. If we could, let's be honest, if we could get a better version of Weghorst, honestly, I wouldn't even be shocked if he went for someone like that over Victor Osimhen, honestly. Because what he really wants from his striker, what I think their primary function is, and I've said this about Weghorst, is that it's not even goals. The primary function is pressing, link up play. Receive the ball, hold it up, bring defenders in, bring the fullbacks in, give space to those inside forwards, give space to people like Rashford, people like Anthony, and watch them flourish. So I wouldn't even be shocked, honestly, if we got an improved version of Weghorst, maybe a younger, faster, better, bit of a better finisher, because they are going to be, expected to score some goals. But maybe you're right. Maybe it's not the right profile of player that he's looking for. Maybe that could be a part of it as well. We need a faster Veggie as well. Alex says, surely the primary shortlist for the summer, for the striker in the summer should be one from Osimhen, Vlahovic, Kane, regardless of Martial leaving. If Martial goes, then need another. Thuram, Moffi, Okafor, Benjamin Šeško as well. Maybe that might be part of it. That could be an interesting bit of it as well. We have seen Ten Hag also want to play with really fluid strikers as well. I mean, some of our best football, I say best, but an exciting period of when we were playing really nice football has been on the rare occasion when we've been able to get like Rashford, Martial, Sancho and Bruno all on the pitch and they just go like that. They just interchange. They're so fluid. Ten Hag has wanted to do that. So again, it's I'm not sure. The Reckoning says, Owen, why is it either one or the other with you? Oh man, I didn't realize this was going to be a real psychological evaluation. I wasn't ready for this. The Reckoning. We can get a striker that can hold up the ball, link up play and score. It's not this crazy idea to find a player that can be a striker. Let me try and read that again. I'm confused by it. Owen, why is it either one or the other with you? We can get a striker that can hold up the ball, link up play and score. It's not this crazy idea, that they can do it all. Well, yes, they can. But again, it depends on the system. It depends on... I'm not saying that striker, they definitely won't score. Weghorst probably should add a few more goals. But I'm saying that it's not going to be the expectation whereby, he's got to come in, he's got to score 30 goals, It might be that his function is lesser and he will still contribute with goals, but that's not the primary function. And also what we have seen from Osimhen this season is that he's a goal scorer. And can he do that hold-up play as well as maybe someone else? That might be a part of it too. I do want to talk about Alejandro Garnacho briefly, because we have spoken about this quite a lot, haven't we, over the last few weeks. A new report from Charlotte Ducker from The Times is saying that Alejandro Garnacho is set to agree a 5-year deal at Manchester United, which would include a significant pay increase on his £7,000 per week wages to reflect his status in the team. Now, obviously, one, excellent news. Two, we have heard this quite a bit. We have heard that he had agreed this deal in principle. I mean, it was even months ago. I forget who the journalist was at the time. I'm sure you'll let me know in the chat. That it had basically been done. It was pending image rights. Then we had heard, was it earlier this week or last week, that this deal in principle had been agreed. I think it was from ESPN. I think it was one of their South American journalists actually had reported it from ESPN, which would make sense. And again, it was pending image rights and his salary would be increasing and it would be a progressive thing, whereas over time it would increase more and more as he plays more games for United. And now we're getting it from the Times. So it would appear that everyone's saying the same thing here, that it's not a concern, it's not a worry. And to be fair, months ago, All of the big hitters were saying that they didn't expect Garnacho to go anywhere. Yes, there were clubs sniffing around him in Europe, like Madrid or Barcelona or Juventus, when Juventus had money, all that kind of stuff. But now it appears that he's going to be sticking around, which is good. It's exciting. What a season he's had already. The discussion around him is almost a testament to how well he's doing. The expectation already on him, but we've still got to support him. We've still got to back him. He's still going to have those games where he makes mistakes or he doesn't, finish or he misses chances. That's part of the development. I truly believe there is a real special player there. To be 18 and to play with that kind of confidence and have that kind of personality on the pitch in big games as well. Make no mistake, it's not just these small games that he's really showing up in. He got an assist for the winning goal in the Manchester derby. When he was criticised or by certain people against Leeds for missing chances, bear in mind, he's still got in the position to score those chances. That's the key thing too. The next game against Leeds, he scores. He is going to be a proper player. He's going to be such a big player for Manchester United in the future. And I have so much faith as well in the management structure surrounding him. That would have been previously my concern, is a player with that raw potential. You'd say, is there the right coach there at the club that can really get the best out of that player, can really mould him into a world-class player, can teach him, and can remove those maybe aspects of his game that aren't as good, or those aspects of his personality which maybe need to just be tweaked slightly. The right manager's there to guide him. The right coaching staff. Yeah, you've got to give credit to the whole coaching staff. It's not just Erik ten Hag. The right coaching staff is there as well. People like Mitchell van der Gaag, people like Steve McLaren, who is very experienced, especially when it comes to Manchester United. People like Benny McCarthy, others in Manchester United that, we don't even know that much about. And of course Erik ten Hag. That's the real important thing. He has the right structure around him right now. His integration into the team has been near enough spot on. Maybe at points, maybe a little bit too much, but every time it does get a little bit too much, Erik ten Hag dials it back. And that's the key thing. So very excited about Garnacho, and I'm sure we'll get an official announcement soon. When that will be, who knows? And previously, every time there was like a contract announcement, it felt strategic, didn't there? Because it was always after something bad, bad news. Let's give them some good news. This person signed a new contract. Let's give. They're staying, and and it would sort of be met, wouldn't it, with an eye roll of going, oh great, But I don't know. This one might be announced at the end of the season. It might be a case of let's not even distract from everything that's going on right now. Let's not rest on our laurels. Let's wait till the end of the season. Let's do a big announcement with a load of players. Because, of course, there's plenty of players that are currently negotiating contracts right now. Marcus Rashford, Luke Shaw, Fred, etc. Diogo Dalot. They're all they're all negotiating new deals, and I expect pretty much all of them to stay, honestly. And again, it's an exciting time, certainly, for United. Witterbird says, Vicky, come on, one of our members and mods says, well, Garnacho is in his prime, idiot commentators. I know, again, it's a bizarre expectation for a kid that's 18, hasn't even played a full season of first team football. And his first full season of first team football is at Manchester United as well. It's not as if he's been out on loan somewhere else and he's had a season of first team men's football. It's halfway through, 3/4 through his first season of men's first team football, and it's at Manchester United. Not many players are capable of that. That's a special player and a special talent, certainly, as well. Finally, of course, it is match day. Yes, Manchester United versus Barcelona. Europa League playoff second leg is tonight. Currently, the score on aggregate is 2-2 after the first leg at the Camp Nou. Exciting. It does feel like a big one. I remember this time last week, I was already starting to get the butterflies. And then when the coverage started and you see the stadium and you saw the teams and you see the players, you go, well, this feels like a big one. And it's just funny, isn't it, of a week of Champions League football. And make no mistake, that Liverpool-Real Madrid game did feel like a big Champions League game. But last night, you look at some of the games, City versus Leipzig, Porto versus Inter Milan, you go, I mean, I'm sure the fans of their respective teams, they care. But it just didn't feel like a big European night. And tonight it does once again. And I mean, I'm nervous, but at the same time, there's this bit of expectation now, isn't there? Actually, you know what? We can do this. I mean, last week was the acid test, the litmus test. Talk about passing out with flying colours. The only thing we didn't do is win that match. We did everything but. And tonight we're at home. They've got players missing. Pedri, Gavi. We've got players back. Sabitzer, Martinez. It feels like this could be a big European night and another big moment this season. And you look at these pinpoint moments, don't you, of where the steps or positive steps of you going, that was a moment, that was a moment. You look at the game against Brentford, the loss, that was a pivotal point in our season. Ten Hag turned it around, said enough was enough, I'm running with you, we're sorting this out. Pivotal moment. You look at the game against Liverpool at home, pivotal moment. Big match, rivals, hadn't won a game at that point, win that match, then we start to progress. You look at games against the likes of Arsenal, pivotal moment. Even the defeats away, the loss against Manchester City at the Etihad, pivotal moment. And then just a few weeks later at Old Trafford, winning that one, pivotal moment. You know, even the performance at the Nou Camp, pivotal moment. And if we win tonight, you get another big pivotal moment in the season. And followed that by a cup final at the weekend. It just feels big, doesn't it? It feels big, and I so hope. I so hope we get the result. Now, I do want to show a clip. You would have seen it on the socials last night, but in case you didn't, Flex was in both press conferences yesterday. He was in the Erik ten Hag and Rafael Varane press conference, but he was also in the Xavi and Jules Koundé press conference. We've got a clip because Flex was able to ask a question to the Barcelona manager and Barcelona right back.
Hi, Jules. Another question in English for you, nice and easy. You've had the chance to play against Marcus Rashford a couple of times now. You're quite physical, very quick yourselves. How do you find it coming up against a player like Marcus Rashford, and how difficult is it to try and contain him, whether he be through the middle as a number 9 or coming from the left if you're at right back? How difficult is it to contain a player like him?
I think he's a very versatile player. He can do a lot of things on the pitch. Obviously, he's very fast, so it makes it very difficult. And also great at reading space, great in the area too to define action. So it's always challenging to play against this type of player. But very excited. Obviously, that's why we play. And but it's also a collective. I think he has a great team, great teammates around him. So. It's our mission to make it difficult for his teammate to find him.
Hi, Xavi. A question in English, if I may.
Hi.
I know your English is perfect, so you'll be fine. Two big players for Manchester United have been part of the resurgence. Two players you know very well, Casemiro and Varane. How important can they be in a game like this for Manchester United, and what sort of impact do you think they can have over the game that makes it more difficult for Barcelona to win this game?
Yes, both. I would say that both are really important for the team, not only as a players, also as the mentality that we are talking about. Mentality, passion, rhythm. They are used to play this kind of game, so it's very important for United. They could sign Casemiro, for example. No, they are making with Varane, with these kind of players with experience. They are making the difference also in the.
Big up Flex asking the questions there to Xavi and Jules Koundé at the press conference. Really interesting stuff. Really interesting to see their responses about Varane, Casemiro and Marcus Rashford, particularly Koundé, of course, who struggled against Rashford last week as well. I do just want to just bring up something as we wrap things up here. I mean, you would have just maybe seen it on social media. I just came up on my phone just a second ago. Really sad news this morning that iconic football commentator John Motson has sadly passed away. This is just sort of coming out in the last couple of minutes or so. He's passed away aged 77. Again, that's confirmed now from the BBC. Awful news. Awful news. And you might not be... if you're outside of the UK, you might not be totally familiar with his commentary. I know we've got such a really wide global community here, but to be fair, probably a lot of people, even if you've played, the football games or anything like that, you'd have probably heard him at some point. Just an iconic commentator, and that's really sad. That absolutely sucks. My favourite. I mean, I grew up watching Match of the Day, watching the highlights, watching the FA Cup finals, and he was the voice. Watching England playing international tournaments on the BBC, some of those sort of heartbreaking moments that you think of when it comes to England going out of World Cups and European Championships. It was all guided by John Motson's voice, and he was my favourite. He really is. I know lots of people have their own personal favourites, but there was just something about John Motson's voice, his personality, real old school school football personality, the sheepskin jacket wherever he was, but a real proper football guy, and again, an icon. I mean, his voice is just so recognizable. He was a football encyclopedia as well. Whenever he was interviewed or anything like that, I found him absolutely a fascinating person. At times had a bit of a contentious relationship with Sir Alex Ferguson, keeping it to Manchester United, but he was just, again, he was my favourite commentator. I think it's probably him and Martin Tyler up there. I didn't really hear that much of Barry Davies. It used to be him and John Motson used to do a lot of the commentary for the international matches, FA Cup finals and all that kind of stuff over here in the UK, but by the time I came around, Barry Davies had retired, so I didn't stopped doing football commentary, and it was mainly John Motson for certainly a lot of my childhood, and yeah, that's really sad news, really sad news. So obviously, I think I speak on behalf of United View. We send our thoughts, prayers, condolences to John Motson's family, his friends, his fans, his loved ones, and just the whole football community, because that's a real tough one to take. That's a real tough loss. And it's always horrible when someone passes away and you lose someone. But there's a thing with commentators, isn't there, that they are the narrators of some of the best and iconic football moments. Sometimes when you think of amazing football moments, sometimes it's even tough to picture in your mind. It's tough to picture the moment itself, but you can always remember the line. You can always remember the commentary. You can always remember the voice. And they really were certainly for myself, it was the voice of my footballing childhood and a lot of my footballing life. And again, it's incredibly sad news. Certainly there will not be another like him. I think nowadays there are still some really good commentators, and one's coming through too. But there's just something about those originals, isn't there? There's something about their voices, their off the cuffness, their personalities. I mean, every commentator has their own personality as well, and yeah, it's really sad. And I can see obviously throughout the entire chat, lots of people saying R.I.P. and sending their thoughts and condolences and their prayers to John Motson's loved ones as well. That's really sad. As the reckoning says there, great football storytellers, and that's what they are. They're storytellers. It's such a tough job being a football commentator. I know that nowadays, and I do sympathise quite a lot with football commentators, because you hear them on the coverage, and then you go onto social media and it's always, oh God, I hate this person. And I do think, in fairness, some of the commentators nowadays aren't great, but they're only great because we hold them to the standards of the greats. We were fortunate, I suppose, that for so many years we've had such great commentators, and nobody's going to ever be able to live up to those guys, right? No one's going to be able to live up to people like John Motson, people like Martin Tyler, people like Clive Tilsley. People they're just not going to. There are still greats out there right now, but they're just not going to live up to that level, are they? So yeah, really sad news this morning. And here's hoping, look, we get the victory on behalf of John Motson. I don't even know who he was a fan of, actually. As I mentioned, go and YouTube, since you're on here now, go and YouTube some Sir Alex Ferguson, John Motson interviews. Again, they got pretty feisty. Also, as well, some John Motson interviews with Brian Clough. They also got some really interesting moments as well, because for the majority of the time as well, particularly on those sort of BBC coverages, if you were the commentator, you were the interviewer after the game. It wasn't always that you had the commentator and then the other journalist, the interviewer. Usually it was you were a commentator solo as well, so you didn't even have the analysis person next to you that can sort of take over. It was just you had to do play-by-play and colour commentary. You had to do it all. And even at a time where John Motson, we started up in radio as well, which is even more difficult. Talk about painting a picture. And then you have to do the interviews after the game. So that's tough. But nevertheless, as I mentioned, a real big miss, and rest in peace to John Motson, certainly. But there you go, guys. That's the show today. A bit of a sad note to end on, but it is match day, so there is plenty of UV content on the horizon. We're going to have full match day coverage. There's going to be a road trip. There's going to be match views, fan views, all of the reactions. And here's hoping we're through in the Europa League. Here's hoping for a big result at Old Trafford tonight. I'm sure you're going to support us. We all are. We're going to come together and support Manchester United as we get through it. So be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. And I'll speak to you again very soon. Peace.